Well put. Thank you very much, Nadia Sharbi. Yes, with 4 days to go until the French presidential election this Wednesday, socialist frontrunner François Hollande and conservative incumbent Nicolas Sarkozy facing off in their one and only candidates debate. We at France 24 decided to get in the spirit of the moment with two men to help you decide which of the candidates has the better answers to the challenges facing France and the wider world. We're pleased to welcome European Member of Parliament Arnaud Danjean, who's running in next month's French legislative elections, and you'll be in the Burgundy area. Thank you for being with us. Also with us, Olivier Ferrand, who's also running, not in the same district, however. The socialist, who's president of the economics think tank Terra Nova, is running in the Marseille area. Welcome to the show. Welcome to both of you. It's the first time that the French pick a president since the start of the worst financial crisis in a decade, since the start of the Arab Spring, and after a first round that saw the far-right National Front garner a record 18% of the vote. The France 24 debate, where you can always weigh in on the conversation on Facebook, on Twitter, where our handle is @FrançoisF24. And if you're bent on both watching and tweeting at the same time, no problem. We now have a nifty new live streaming feed where you can use the live F24 hashtag. For the first part of this debate, though, let's welcome France 24 politics editor Mark Perlman. And how are you doing, Mark? And before we go to our guests, let's begin with a look at the numbers, the latest polls. François Hollande still well outside the margin of error, ahead on 53.5% according to BVA Polling Institute. But the gap narrowing, it had been 54, and the IFOP Polling Institute this Wednesday evening making it even closer. Look at that, 53% to 47% for Nicolas Sarkozy. Arnaud Danjean, the election is Sunday. Is it too late to close that gap?
No, absolutely not, of course. I think first you mentioned some polls that show that there is a trend. It's small trend, but still that Sarkozy is gaining some points. I would just recall that the Friday before the first round of the elections, we had the same institute, BVA, gave a poll with 30% to François Hollande, 4 points ahead of Sarkozy. It ended up at the first round with 1.45. So I wouldn't trust too much, and I think a lot is still possible in 3 days.
And are you feeling any momentum?
Well, it depends from where you start. But in my region, for example, we had a big rally last Friday with Nicolas Sarkozy coming. He was the most prominent people to come in Burgundy for this campaign. And we expected 5,000 people. We had almost 10,000. So yes, and yesterday in Trocadero in Paris, it was quite impressive, well ahead of what we expected. So there is a kind of a momentum, I think.
Olivier Ferrand, are you nervous when you see the polls inching, the incumbent inching closer?
Well, you know, the election is not played until the last ballot is cast, so I would concur with what you said, really. But if you look at the campaign, there's been more than 250 polls during this campaign, and all of them, gave second-round victory to François Hollande. Not one single poll gave the victory to Nicolas Sarkozy. So clearly the odds are in favor of François Hollande, but we'll have to wait for the debate. One thing to add is that in virtually all the polls, the victory for François Hollande is with very wide to a landslide margin. Like 53 is very wide, and it goes up to 55, 56, 44 victory, which is unheard of under the Fifth Republic. And our audience has to understand that it's not a regular left-right divide. There is no such thing as a 55 majority in France for the left, even if if Nicolas Sarkozy is, as a human person, rejected by the French citizens. It's much more than that. It's structural. There's been a change, a shift during the last presidential mandate and during this campaign again. In one sentence, Sarkozy moved the center of gravity of the governing right which was center-right, to a more extreme radicalized right towards the doors of the extreme right to some extent on values, and he lost the center ground. Basically, the polls that are shown is not a left-right divide; it's a left plus center, progressive majority versus a radicalized right.
Arnaud Danjean, did Nicolas Sarkozy not only open that door but actually cross it, as
No,
some people say?
Not at all. I think it's pure caricature.
When he talks about borders, about France,
yeah,
about the Christian roots and all this.
Is it forbidden? Is it forbidden to
But
talk
unusual,
about certain topic, like borders, like protection, like Europe, which would be more concrete for our citizens? I'm member of the European Parliament. I'm belonging to the majority of the European Parliament, very favorable to the European project, of course. But when I come back to my constituency, people are raising real questions about what is trade policy of Europe about when we have such industrialization of France. What is it about this Schengen with the freedom of movement but with no borders? What does it mean concretely for us? These questions are real questions. So it is not forbidden to address these questions. And I would not accept that people would portray Sarkozy or my party as an extreme right party, as some socialists have told even today. This is not the truth. This is simply not the truth.
Let's hear a couple of the statements that Nicolas Sarkozy made. He opted to organize his own May Day rally on Tuesday in the run-up to Sunday's election. There he talked of those who, in the preparation for his speech, he talked about a rally for those who really work. And in his speech, he drew some battle lines.
La France doit être soudée. La France doit être unie. La France doit se rassembler. Mais je le dis aux syndicats, posez le drapeau rouge et servez la France.
Lay down the red flag, said Nicolas Sarkozy.
Are you shocked?
I'm just wondering, is that a polarizing statement? Is that a statement that stigmatizes a portion of the population?
No, portion of activists, yes, but people with whom we never had any link anyway. But when I saw the Soviet flag yesterday on the Bastille, of course it was not a majority of the people, but it was there.
At the trade unions demonstration.
Yeah, it was there. I'm sorry, I
The
don't feel.
Soviet Union flag.
Yes, absolutely. It was with a red star, and it was not for a football club. So yes, of course, we don't agree with that, and we think that the French flag is better than the red flag, yes.
But is it because some of the unions have clearly taken a position for François Hollande, or put it in another way, against Nicolas Sarkozy, and they usually tend, although they tend to be on the left, to be more neutral? I mean, is this
They tend to be neutral all the time.
This time not.
But this time not. Clearly, one trade union has called clearly and openly for a vote.
Yes, why is that? It's because Nicolas Sarkozy has extremized radicalized the position of the governing rights. If beforehand, when the right was normal governing rights, of course the unions would have remained neutral. But when you toe the line of the extreme right, they defend the Republican rules.
What do we call the extreme right? I would like to know exactly what we call the extreme right when you say that Sarkozy has crossed the line or has opened doors.
I'm not saying this, but many people are accusing.
Yeah, but I would like to
and
to
some
be more
people,
precise.
we're told, some people within his party are not too comfortable with the option that's been taken. Maybe yourself.
There were
I don't know.
always different sensibilities within the party. And within the French right, there are different sensitivities.
This Wednesday, the foreign minister, Alain Juppé, distanced himself from remarks made by the defense minister in a far-right news magazine.
I would do the same. I think it was a personal statement, regrettable. I wouldn't follow this precise statement of one single person. But as far as I know, the huge majority of the party leadership has distanciated himself from this statement.
Well, Gérard Longuet is a minister, and I can hardly think he wrote in an extreme right newspaper without the authorization of the Élysée. If you look at what the press, the foreign press said various times, take Newsweek, when they wanted to embody the extreme right's rise in Europe, whom do they, whose figure did they take? They took Nicolas Sarkozy as a depiction of the rise of the extreme right in Europe. That was 1 year and a half.
Do you consider him
ago.
as a far-right politician?
He's towing the. He will. He's playing with forces which are inevitably going to recompose massively the political landscape in France.
But deep down, do you think he's a fascist? Let's put it this way.
No, he's not a fascist. He's still a Republican, but he will. What is at stake at the moment is a redefinition of the political landscape in France. There is, on the one hand, a radicalization of the UMP, the governing right, and on the other hand, a de-Guitoization of the National Front, so the extreme right party. At the end of the day, there will be an alliance between the National Front and the UMP party. There will be. Everything is in place. Perhaps not this time at the legislative elections. There will be some local alliances between the two parties, and I can tell you in the south of France...
It never happened.
It
never
did
happened.
happen in the past, and it will
People were rejected. People were rejected.
No, you're lying. Four regions. Four regions.
And they were rejected.
Not at all.
Yes, Lyon, Soissons were rejected.
Not at all.
Right, one final question on this. François Hollande's been careful. François Hollande's been careful not to stigmatize the 6.4 million people who voted for the National Front as well, and he has himself toned quite a hard line when it comes to immigration policy.
No, he's proposing the vote for foreigners in local elections. You cannot say that he's playing with the National Front. With the National Front, it's very easy. It's mainly a popular vote, and there are reasons for that vote, which are economic and other which are linked to values. And what the left is saying is very simple. If it's linked to values, if it's racism, if it's xenophobia, we can play with that. Nicolas Sarkozy is playing with that. He's playing consistently.
But did this
constantly with that. On the other hand, if it's economic, if it's to help people who are in dire straits, yes, there is a good reason to help people when they are unemployed, when they threaten to lose their job.
I formally reject this, and I cannot let people compare Sarkozy to extreme right, and I cannot let people tell us that we will ultimately make an alliance with Front National. I am myself a new MP politician. I am running for election. I'll never make any alliance with the Front National, and I never intended so. So I don't see why we have this kind of projection of recomposition of the right. Let's wait. Let's wait for the second round, and let's wait for the parliamentary election. I don't think the National Front will do so well in the parliamentary election anyway. And the UMP will stay, whatever happens for the presidential race.
All right, we're gonna move on now and talk about economic issues. I want to thank you, Mark Perlman, for being with us. Mark will be with us, by the way, throughout Sunday for France 24's extensive election night coverage from 6 p.m. Paris time. We're going to go from Mark to Marcus and say hello. He's coming on the set now to our business editor, Marcus Carlson. Welcome, Marcus. As we said at the outset, Marcus, France certainly has the world's undivided attention with this election, an unprecedented crisis taking place for the world and for the common currency, the euro, right now.
Absolutely, and of course we need to remember that France is the second biggest economy in the Eurozone after Germany. It's part of the so-called core, which we until recently thought was a safe bet, so to speak, for investors. There was talk of the periphery. That was unsafe, whereas the core was safe. Now, though, there are more and more question marks, even over France and its credit rating, for instance. We remember back in January that Standard & Poor's downgraded France from its AAA rating. Now, when I speak to economists, they tell me that there is a real risk that France could be next, that contagion could spread from Greece, from Italy and from Spain and Portugal into France, and that we could see borrowing costs, for instance, for France come up. What are your two parties. What are your two candidates going to do about that? If we start with Camp Sarkozy.
Well, the efforts have been sustained for the last months, and we stick to the will of implementing the treaty that has been signed in March. Discipline for the budget at the Eurozone level, and we will stick to that point. And that's very important to give some truth to the markets and to continue to borrow money with a good rate, which is currently the case. So the first duty of the next president, whoever he is to have confidence of our neighbors, our partners, European partners, and financial institutions by implementing the treaty, and to come back to a more balanced budget and to limit our deficits, public debt. This is, we cannot avoid that. And whoever wins, he will not avoid that anyway. So we have, I think, the advantage of telling the truth. Mr. Hollande is just promising to renegotiate the treaty, which means not implementing this current treaty and to renegotiate it. And we know that it cannot happen. And it will not happen anyway until maybe Mrs. Merkel goes. Next elections in Germany are in September 2013. What are we going to do for a year and a half if Mr. Hollande is elected at the Eurozone level? What we going to do? I simply don't know. So this uncertainty is a threat to our stability. Yes, it is. I think on our side, we clearly told the truth of the situation and what we're going to do, and that is sticking to what has been already agreed by 25 members.
Olivier Ferrand?
Yes, diffidence is already underway in the core of the Eurozone. Not only France, where the interest rate spreads have risen quite significantly. We have now a spread which is about 150 points, so it's quite a lot, even 200 at some stage. So it's a lot.
You're talking about the spread between Germany and France.
Germany. Yeah. So we borrow money 2 points or 1.5 more than above Germany, but Germany itself sees its interest rate. There's no spread with Germany, but its interest rate is rising also 25 points. So even Germany is not attacked, but there is a diffidence going on in the core of the...
So borrowing for Germany, it's very, very, very low. And but investors trust Germany. Investors don't trust France.
It's increasing also in Germany. Slightly, but it's increasing. So the answer is, of course, internally to find a proper path for public finance in order to balance our budget.
We're gonna pick up on that point when we come back, because we're gonna have to take a break. But please, Olivier Ferrand, Arnaud Danjean, don't go away. On the day that the French election candidates are having their debate, we're having ours. This is France 24.